wider community service. We begin as always for Shabbat B'Yachad. Here we are. We hope our young people are being offered instruments to be joining in, and as per usual, many of our teachers will be leading part of the service. So Shabbat B'Yachad Siddur, we begin with
recording in progress.
If we didn't know, we do know that now. So we begin on page 4 with Matovu. Stand if you're able. This is how we welcome each other with the words of blessing from the prophet Bilam. Us in a little bit of study, shall we sing the blessing for Torah study, all of us? We can sit down as we do it. La'asok b'divrei Torah, busy with Torah.
My favourite get out of jail free card is, your present is my present. But you might be shocked at how often it's true. You'll hear a lot about bringing gifts to a synagogue in this week's service, which made me think. I've been part of 3 synagogues. What gifts have I seen people bring? I grew up at Maidenhead Synagogue and then became their youth worker. But Maidenhead Synagogue's gift is called Sue. She was my Cheder teacher, and I know it might seem weird to you guys, but once I was an adult, she was like a sort of aunt, friend kind of person. And I recently went back to visit the synagogue. They had a new administrator who didn't know me. So, very reasonably, when I rang the bell at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning, she gave me a bit of a grilling. What's your name and why are you here? I edged into the building because it was so cold while giving her my phone number, just as she was evidently about to say, let me just speak to the rabbi. I noticed that Sue was cooking some food for a homeless shelter in the synagogue kitchen. She looked up, saw me, looked down again, and then did the biggest and best double take you have ever seen. She looked up, screamed my name, Zoe, and ran at me. Her hands completely covered it in flour, gave me the biggest, floweriest hug ever, and kissed my face 30 times. I now had flowery clothes and quite a sticky face. The new administrator stepped back and went, oh, I think it's okay that you're here. Oh, thanks. Sue is Maidenhead's gift. But my parents moved to Manchester, so I spent a bit of time at Menorah, which is the Reform synagogue there. But I didn't know anyone, and that was a bit scary. But the rabbi was called Chaim, and he became my favourite person. But he is not the gift. He made me laugh, he loved Harry Potter. He said he didn't really know if there was a God, but that didn't matter. And unfortunately, Chaim left the synagogue about 6 months after my parents moved there. Shall I move this back up? Is that helpful?
Yes.
Sure. I'll just hold it here. There was a new rabbi. He was called Fabian, and he is Menorah's gift. So I went to Menorah for Rosh Hashanah. Thanks. And I was super sad. I was sad because I didn't know anyone. I was sad because I wanted to be at Maidenhead with Sue. I was sad because Chaim had gone to Israel to be a rabbi. I was so sad, I literally cried through the entire service. I sobbed. In Reform synagogues, and some liberal ones, they process the scroll the whole way around the service. And so, Fabian, the new rabbi, with a Torah on his shoulder, sort of came past and whispered to my mum, why is she crying? My mum looked somewhat embarrassed and said, because you're here and Chaim isn't. And the reason that Fabian is Menorah's gift is he just looked at me and stuck out his foot and said, size 11, and walked on. You might be thinking, why did he do that? Me too. Reason 1, he's a gift, stopped me crying because I had no idea what he was doing. 2, made me think, and I realised, don't know if you've got that, I felt very clever, he has big feet, big shoes to fill. And he had big feet. So he was saying, don't worry, you'll end up crying because I've left too. You'll like me soon, chill out. But he said it, funnily, swiftly, while carrying a Torah and didn't take offence. And I just thought, I was quite clever. Anyway, he's my new favourite person. He's Menorah's gift. And then the next place I came was FPS. So I feel very lucky to know most of you quite well. But I'm going to leave it a question. When I go back to Manchester or Maidenhead, what story am I going to tell about you and your gift at FPS?
Yes, of course, Zoe. So Zoe's challenged us to think about what our gifts are that we bring to the synagogue. So as always, we know that it isn't our job to get them completely right, but neither are we not allowed to try. So Lo Alecha Hamlacha Ligmor, top of page 6. is it today? Shabbat. Shabbat. So let's sing a song for Shabbat. Celebrate us being here together. Let's go into Psuke de Zimra, verses of praise. We're on page 7 as I offer a few words. Baruch Shema v'haya ha'olam baruch hu, baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, hamchulal b'fi amo meshubach umfa'ad b'lishon chasidav v'avadav, b'shvachot uvizmarot, nagadel chavalam lichacha, malkeinu yachid chei ha'olamin, baruch atah Adonai, melech mechulal, B'tish Bachot. And you guys will lead us in the words of Nachman of Bratslav. The world is a very narrow bridge, and as we go into the month of February, the new Hebrew month of Adar, we know that always we are rising to challenges. He told us the main thing is not to be afraid or make ourselves afraid. Kol ha'olam kulo.
So, if you believe incorrectly that bridge is this, you put your hand up. So Maya and Hannah come up. If you believe accurately the bridge is this, there's literally no one over with me.
Oh, B. It looks like B had her hand up.
B, can you come and do the actions with me so we can prove that we're right? You don't agree with me. You agree with this. Right, well, everyone can agree with them and think that bridge is this action, whereas you can be right with me and think that bridge is this action, because it looks like a bridge.
Kol ha'olam kulo geshet sar me'od, geshet sar me'od, geshet sar me'od. Kol ha'olam kulo geshet sar me'od, geshet sar me'od.
stand for the Yishtabach, those who are comfortable doing so. Hannah and Maya, you might as well stay here or bring your Siddurim.
Yishtabach Shimcha Lad Malkeinu Ha'el HaMelech HaGadol VaHaKadosh B'Shamayim U'Va'aretz Ki Lecha Na'eh Adonai Eloheinu Ve'Elohei Avoteinu Shir U'Shvacha Halel Ve'Zimra Brachot V'Hodaot Me'ata Ve'ad Olam Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'shirei zimra.
Baruch atah Adonai.
Wait. We'll sing Baruch and then you jump
Okay,
in.
never
Thank
mind.
you guys.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai
Okay, here we go. Baruch atah Adonai yotzeh hame'orot.
Great is your love for us, eternal God, and abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truth of your Torah.
Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, O God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. You may sit.
Yeah, let's have a seated Shema today. I like this shaking things up. And we will sing the first couple of lines of Shema before Maya and Hannah lead us in its words.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchut Le'olam
את אדוני אלוהיך, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Then we remember with great joy Moses, Miriam, and all Israel singing this song.
מי כמוך באלוהים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא.
שירה חדשה שיבחו גואלים, לשמך על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו.
אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. To Israel, Kuma בעזרת ישראל, בוא עלינו אדוני צבאות שמו, בוא עלינו אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
So we're going to be led by Maya and Elias in the Amidah, and I invite us to stand ready.
שפתי תפתח, ופי יגיד תהילתך.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Emotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Govim, Vekonei Hakol, Bezocher Hasdei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'neihem, Lema'an Shemo Le'hava, Melech Huser Moshiach Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Abraham Ve'ezrat Sarah.
אתה גיבור לעולם, אדוני,
B'chayei Meitim Atah Rav L'Hoshia, Mashiv Harurach Umorid Hageshem, Mazriach Hashemesh Umorid Hatal.
מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים פרובב עולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך על גבורו ומי דומה לך.
V'ne'eman Atah L'chochayot Meitim, Baruch Atah Adonai L'chayei Hameitim. Nakadesh et Shemcha Ba'olam, Keshem Shemakdishim Oto B'Shmei Maron, Kakatuv Al Yad B'Yachad.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzebaot, Malach kol haaretz kavodo.
Kevodo Malei Olam.
Baruch Adonai Mimkomo.
Mimkomcha Malkeinu Tofia V'Timloch Aleinu, Kemechakim Anachnu Lach.
Imloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Yitzion, V'dor Ador, Hallelujah. V'dor Ador, V'dor Ador, V'dor Ador, Nagid Kol Lecha, Ulenetzach Netzachim, Ulenetzach Netzachim, Kedushatcha nakdish, L'tov Ador, L'tov Ador, L'tov Ador, nagid kol lecha, Ulenetzach Netzachim, Ulenetzach Netzachim, Kedushatcha nakdish, V'shivcha Eloheinu, Pinu lo yamush leolam va'ed, Ki el melech gadol, Ki el melech gadol, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. L'tov Ador, L'tov Ador, L'tov Ador, nagid kol lecha, Ulenetzach Netzachim, Ulenetzach Netzachim, Kedushatcha nakdish.
Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Yisrachu b'malchutacha, Shomrei, 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 Shabbat. shvi Shabbat Kulam yisbu v'yitamu mitu v'ka Shabbat Yisrafu v'malas v'chad Shomrei Shabbat v'korei onek Shabbat Yisrafu v'malas v'chad Shomrei Shabbat v'korei onek Shabbat V'hashvi'i ratitavo v'kirat lo Shabbat Dak yamim Oto karata Shabbat Yisrafu v'malas v'chad Shomrei Shabbat v'korei onek Shabbat Yisrafu v'malas v'chad Shomrei Shabbat v'korei onek Shabbat Zechel l'maseh b'reishit Shabbat Zechel l'maseh b'reishit Shabbat Yisrafu v'malas v'chad Shomrei Shabbat v'korei onek Shabbat Yisrafu v'malas v'chad Shomrei Shabbat v'korei onek Shabbat
Baruch atah Adonai, Makadesh HaShabbat. Ratei Adonai Eloheinu be'emcha Yisrael, u'tiflatam be'ahava tekabel, u'tehi l'eretz tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, shiotecha levadecha b'yira na'avod.
Modim anachnu lach, shetahu Adonai Eloheinu, v'Elohei avotenu, le'olam va'ed. Tzur chayenu, magen yishenu, atahu ledor vador. Nodeh lecha u'nesaper tehilatecha, al chayenu hamesurim be'adecha, ve'al nishmotenu hapekudot lach, ve'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu, ve'al nifleotecha v'tovotecha shebechol et erev v'boker v'sochorayim. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha u'lecha na'eh na'odot.
Just a quiet, silent prayer.
Shalom U'bracha Sim Shalom Torah Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Alecha. Sim Shalom. Tova ubracha. Sim Shalom. Tova ubracha.
Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom.
Please take a moment for silent prayer.
Adonai Turi Ve'Goali. Adonai Turi Ve'Goali. Ratzon Irevi Adonai Turi Ve'Goali. Adonai Turi Use shalom b'brama, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adon. Use shalom b'brama, Ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol bnei Adon. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Wow, Ivria, you were on fire this morning, and our fantastic teachers leading us in what feels like practically the whole service. Just so wonderful, so proud of you all. We're on page 22. Let's go to Kriyat HaTorah, the Torah service, and I believe Dalit and Hay are going to teach us something before we read Torah. But for now, we're on page 22. Let's stand. And I think Natasha's trying to do two things. So I'm going to... Yes, you are. So let's read together. In days to come, the mountain of God's house shall be established as the highest mountain, towering above the hills, and all the nations shall stream to it. Many peoples will go and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Eternal One, to the house of the God of Jacob, so that we may learn God's ways and walk in God's paths."
Ki mitzion tetze Torah, ki mitzion tetze Torah, u'devar Adonai mirushalayim.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu l'Adonai iti onoramama shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai hagedula v'habura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'ha'od kol b'shamayim u'la'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'hamitnaseh v'chol lerosh.
We're just waiting for Torah to come here. But as the Torah comes over here, I believe Torah is obviously what we do every week, in and out. Thank you, Natasha. 54 portions that we read over 52 weeks. And what do? We try and understand the words and pull out their meaning so that it has some relevance for us now. We honour the scrolls. The B'nai Mitzvah class learned two things this morning about the difference of Torah scrolls. Anyone want to help the rest of the congregation learn them? Sam? I mean, there are lots of Sams I could call on. One of you, Sam, two Sams, one Shmuel, one Ethan.
So
The Sephardi scroll.
They're usually red, standing up, and the Ashkenazi scroll, like that's the red spread out on the table.
Exactly, wonderful. And there is our Sephardi scroll inside a tick. It's known as a tick with silver and white linen on the outside, and you just open it. I think we've only had, in my time, 3 bar or bat mitzvah students that have wanted to read from that scroll, and I think we might have got one more who's thinking about it for his bar mitzvah. Dalit Hay, you have been learning about the difference between the temple, of which the last temple, the second temple, was destroyed in the year 70 of the Common Era, and now we have a synagogue. Would Dalit Hay like to come, and so he will help you tell us the difference? Grab a microphone, Phoebe, and any of you who are here and are coming up, you want to come and stand in front of that microphone?
I'll go first. So the reason why the temple was built was because God had told the Jews to build at Sinai to build a temple so that God's presence could dwell among them.
King Solomon built the temple starting in 840 BCE and ending in 827 BCE.
So the Ner Tamid, which is a red light above the ark, is symbolic of the menorah that was used in the temple.
The most important part of the temple is a separated area containing the Ark of the Covenant, and that is containing the Ten Commandments that on the tablets that Moses got in Sinai.
Moses gave God.
So Solomon was the son of King David.
Fantastic. Gosh, those were brilliant pieces of information, particularly as last week we read about the Ner Tamid, the eternal light, which was meant to be in the Mishkan, the sanctuary, and here is ours. We read about that. This week we're going to hear about the commandment of God saying to the people, you need to build a sanctuary, and I am going to dwell not inside the sanctuary, God doesn't say, but amongst them all, which really gives us an idea that it's about who makes a community and how you feel the presence of something sacred and special. You also talked about Solomon building the temple. David was not allowed to build the temple because he'd been involved in too many wars. So the third king of Israel, Solomon, built the temple. What was the other bit? The Ark of the Covenant, Lilybeth read, which is where we get our idea of the ark holding our Torah scrolls. So a different kind of an ark than holding animals in, but this is the ark of our Torah scrolls. Did I miss anything out? Really interesting. Just everyone tell me, what was the way that people worshipped in the temple? They didn't read Torah. They didn't really do much praying. They did something that if we did here, it would be really messy. Shmuel. They sacrificed animals 3 times a day, which is why we offer the Amidah, and the Amidah today, Maya and Elias led so beautifully. Okay, we're going to go into the Torah now, so feel free to sit down. Our Torah portion is from Exodus, second book, Exodus chapter 25. It is known by many rabbis to be the section after all the commandments of Sinai and the Ten Commandments and Mishpatim, all the other commandments, and before a section in Torah known as the IKEA portions, because basically it tells you how to build the Mishkan with a lot of direction. But here we get something fantastic, because God says, I want you to make them bring me gifts. And the word I want you to listen out for is truma. Truma means gifts. God is asking for gifts. Kind of makes it a bit specific, but for us, all these generations later, I want you to start thinking, and Zoe's going to get us to do something after, start thinking, what is the gift you might be bringing to the synagogue? And then God also says, but the truth is, I know no one ever does anything unless their heart is really willing, unless they really want to do it, unless, as many of us use this term, they have good self-interest. So those of you who've been learning the Shema, what's the word lev? Because this says, Yidvenu libo. So it's the word lev. What does lev mean? It means heart. So if your heart is willing, you're more likely to give. The last thing I urge you to listen out for is that there was an animal, apparently, that was alive or in existence for a very short period of time during the time of Torah. We think it's referred to here as a dolphin, but could it have been a dolphin? Would there have been seas near enough? Or was it something more like something between an otter and a raccoon? But one of the gifts was dolphin skin or raccoon skin. So those are, just heads up, that's not particularly what we're needing in our synagogue. So just think a little more broadly. So delighted to call up Etty in honor of losing her father and back from Israel. Ta'amod, Esther Bat Meir, Levarech et HaTorah. Let me just find the place, because we probably rolled it on when we rolled it. There we are, yes. Okay. Blessings are not quite here. I don't know where they've gone. If you can you just take the siddur and give it to Eti, that would be great.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai hamavorach leolam va'ed again.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Amen. I'm just going to move this very noisy microphone over. וידבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ויקחו לי תרומה מאת כל איש אשר ידבנו ליבו. תיקחו את תרומתי, וזאת התרומה אשר תיקחו מאיתם זהב וכסף ונחושת ותכלת וארגמן ותועלת שני ושש עזים ואורות אלים מאדמים ואורות תחשים, that's the word for the dolphin, עצי שיטים, שמן למאור בשמים לשמן המשחה לקטורת הסמים, אבני שוהם ואבני מילואים לאפוד ולחושן, ועשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם ככל אשר אני מראה אותך. And God spoke to Moses, as God always was doing, spoke to Moses and says, tell the whole people of Israel, tell them that they should take for me gifts. And these gifts should come from everyone whose heart is willing. And you should say to them, take these gifts, and my gifts should be brought from, or you should take my gifts from, or these are the kind of gifts I fancy, is basically what God's saying. This is the gift that I would like you to take from. Gold, silver, bronze, blue, purple, crimson, this could be threads or linen, the skin or hair of goats, the skin of ram skin that's been dyed red, dolphin or raccoon skin, you can hear I really like saying that, cedar wood, oil that should be for lighting, for burning incense and sweet spices, and for anointing. And the shoham stones, that are the stones that are placed in the ephod and hoshen, the breastplate and the ephod. And finally, the big reason for all of this, if you make me a sanctuary, I will dwell amongst them all, just as I have shown it to you.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yeshua Koach, Eti, I'm wishing you well and much comfort to be back, and after what sounded like a really special Shiva for you. So let's stand as we raise the scroll.
Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael.
let's sit down. We are going to have a very brief response to Torah before we go to our community prayer and come together as a congregation as we put the scroll away and head towards the end of the service. Now, how could we let this opportunity for being reminded that we are a sanctuary so that God can dwell amongst all of us, and the gifts that you might all choose to bring. Zoe set us a challenge to think who are and what are the gifts here. So you have just a few moments, and I think, Zoe, do you want to give directions of what is needed?
So if you are a child and you're not sitting with your family, zip over so you are sitting with your family. Job one.
Zoe, if you could just hop in front of a microphone, please. All children. All children. The three of you count.
So once you have a piece of paper with your family and your gifts, a pencil and some blue tack, I'd like you to write what you think as a family you are giving. What is your gift to FPS? What can you bring to the community? Once you're done, I'd like you to stick it on the doors of the sanctuary so we can see them as we go out. So decide as your family, what is your gift?
So, and I just want to add, for those of you at home on Zoom, do share what you might be bringing or how you see a gift to the synagogue, and do pop it on the chat for Zoom. I'm just trying to see who is doing community prayer. I'm very interested to see Monty, Graham, Stanley's gifts. Okay, we are coming together for our community prayers. Rachel and Dan are coming up to help us do that before we put the scroll away. I cannot wait on our way out to see all your gifts. We will be photographing to recall and remember. Let's stand, if you finished writing, to have the scroll standing. Okay, off you go. Lovely. Thanks, Tash. We're on page 28, the top of page 28.
Okay. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless this holy community with all holy communities.
May the Holy One grant blessing and success in all the work of their hands, with all Israel, their brothers and sisters. And let us say Amen.
Amen. And may we continue to be blessed as a congregation and bless those who come through our doors, whether virtually or in real life inside our building. And for those of us online this morning, we're really aware that Renzo isn't with us. Renzo broke his hip, but is doing really well. Renzo is in the Whittington Hospital, and I haven't managed to make FaceTime connection with him, but I'm trying to most days. His spirits are high. He is already walking and doing quite well. So I'll be able to tell him that we really spoke of him and felt his presence with us, and wishing him well. And I will take those good wishes back to him. Wonderful. Thank you, Beverly. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai ki nizgav shemo lavado.
Hodu al eretz v'shamayim ve'yarim keret de'amor tehila l'chol chasidav l'bnei Yisrael am karovo.
Say the words, Ki lecha tov natati lechem, Torati al ta'azovu.
It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to those who hold fast to it, and all of its supporters are happy. Shalom, 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 shalom,
Let's stay standing as we go straight to Aleinu. You can find Aleinu on page 33. But before we do that, let's remind ourselves what it is we are hoping that we contribute to make the world a better place. 34, let's read together. And then all that has divided us will merge, and then compassion will be wedded to power, and then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind, and then both men and women will be gentle, and then both women and men will be strong, and then no person will be subject to another's will, and then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of many, And then all will equally share in the earth's abundance. And then we will all care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again.
עלינו לשבח גם אדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, אשר שם חלקנו ליגן את שמו, ותור עלינו להמליך מלכותו. אין עוד, 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 אין עוד. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נותן שמיים ויוסד הארץ, מושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ינצחו זו וגובים ורומים, הוא אלוהינו. אין עוד, 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 אין עוד. אמת מלכינו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבותה אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד, 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 אין עוד.
Beautiful. So let's turn to the Kaddish. We think this week of those who are marking a yahrzeit or mourning a death and a loss. We think particularly of Carmen Managazzi, who lost her mother this week, Fernanda Frestazzi, in Belgium, and Carmen is still there waiting for the funeral. Here we think particularly this Shabbat of Ralph Harris, brother of Ruth and brother-in-law of David Hoffman, of Jean Papworth, mother of Sarah Dibb, of Harry Roberts, father of Margot Katz. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing, and may those who recall and remember their loved ones be comforted in their loss as we say the words of the Kaddish with them. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'hayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mavorach le'olam almei olmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'a v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitada v'yitale v'talal shemei dekudusha brichu, leila min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, da'amiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'hayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol b'nei Adam, v'imru amen. Let's sit down as we hear some announcements this morning. Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Finchley Progressive, whether you are joining us online or whether you are here in the synagogue with us, whether you are an old-timer, a regular, an occasional visitor, a first-timer, a very warm welcome to you. We're so delighted to be together with you this morning. And I want to say thank you, of course, to all of the staff and the volunteers who make our services possible and who participate in the service today. And our family services are usually a wonderful opportunity for us to celebrate our children. And we deduce from the accomplishments and the knowledge and the happiness of our children how wonderful their teachers are. But today was really an opportunity for us to honour our teachers in particular. And when we think about people who bring gifts with an open heart that enable us to build a community, well, this is really so much what we're talking about. So thank you to Zoe, to Hannah, to Maya, to other Maya, both Mayas, to Elias, to John, and to Natasha. And thank you as well to all of our musicians this morning. We had a particularly rich musical contribution this morning. Thank you to our classes, to our B'nai Mitzvah class, to Dalet and to Hay for sharing their learning with us. Thank you, Etty. Thank you, Rachel and Dan, for contributing to and participating in our service this morning. We have a few community announcements. At 10 o'clock tomorrow, Cafe Ivrea is on the subject Continuity and Choosing Faith, and it's being led by Rabbi Rebecca. And on Monday, from 3 to 5, we have the inaugural session of the newly revived Monday Afternoon Club. We're venturing back tentatively to having some social activities in the synagogue in person. So this is an opportunity for people to meet in real life. In the interests of COVID security, our numbers are limited to 20. In theory, you should have registered already, but I understand that there are a few places left. So if you'd like to come to the Monday Afternoon Club between 3 and 5 on Monday, please email barbara@fps.org. Thank you. And at 7 o'clock on Monday, we have Adult Hebrew with Ofra. On Tuesday through Friday, as usual, at 8:30, we have morning meditation. On Wednesday, we have Adult Hebrew with Etty. And at 7 p.m, delving into Judaism, we'll be looking into the ethics of money. So a little further ahead, coming soon, Saturday, February the 19th, we are going to be joining, either in person or in Zoom, with LJS, the Liberal Judaism Synagogue, to kick off our celebrations of 120 years of Liberal Judaism as a movement. So on Saturday the 19th of February, we're doing that with LGS-JS, and there will be no service here at FPS that morning. So just a heads up. Beit Midrash, on February the 24th, we'll be holding a session called Worlds Apart, a conversation with author Nadia Ragozina. And for Purim, we have something a little bit unusual. There's going to be a community Purim car rally, tea and Megillah reading on the 19th of March, and it will start here in the car park at 1 p.m, and there is a price of £15 a car. And if you'd like to know more about it or to register, please email our own zoe@fps.org. And that's it for community announcements, other than to say that our community survey is going out every week in our email, and we'd love you to fill it in. And please do fill it in right to the very end, including the section about you. I know it's long, but it's worth getting to the end bit, because that's all about you. And also that donations to the food bank this month, it's February, it's Valentine's Day, and we have a Valentine's theme for donations to the food bank, which is very simple. Bring food that you love, and you can leave it in the donations box on the porch. It can be brought to FPS. That's it for today. Thank you, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.
So I really want to thank you, Sam, who added so much musically. And more than that, I hope that anyone else who plays an instrument or likes singing might be encouraged by Sam's presence here sitting next to Natasha and come and join us to play more. So thank you, Sam, for that. We are finishing our service with Adon Olam. Thinking ahead to Purim, Franklin just mouthed at me, could he do this on his motorbike? Yes, he definitely could. This is going to be a Purim scavenger hunt quiz all round Barnet and Hertfordshire before we come back to be entertained royally, pun intended, by the community's Purim spiel and feast. And we are looking for individuals to fill cars. So it's not just families inside a car. We might have a couple of folk that come together in the car. So this is a very novel way, and we hope COVID-friendly way, of celebrating Purim. So really think about if you fancy that. If you fancy a drive on a Shabbat afternoon, finding some Purim clues, then think about it for Saturday, the 19th of March. So, Adon Olam, for the end of the service. Get your instruments out for the last moment. So Zoe and I are just communicating about the best way to bless our children. So last month we did the same, which was rather than have you in close quarters on the bima, we are doing it around the sanctuary. So those who have talitot around the sanctuary, and I'm passing mine over to Zoe, are able to just hold it up over children near you. So collectively we get to bless our children. And this morning in our B'nai Mitzvah class, so those who can, comfortable, stand. In our B'nai Mitzvah class this morning, we talked of the priestly blessing offered for all our children to make our girls like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel and Leah, our boys like Ephraim and Manasseh, reminded that these sons of Joseph married an Egyptian, a sure sign that expanding the tent of Jewish life was something that was always meant to continue. So a blessing for all of you. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai v'yihuneka. Yisa Adonai v'yasem lacha shalom. May God bless you and look after you. May God turn to you and be very kind to you. May God turn to you and give you peace and ease. Amen.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And now with your kiddush, which should have appeared on little plates, passed to you.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת וינפש. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן. אמן.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. V'tevon, Shabbat Shalom. Feel free to mute yourselves at home so you can join in